What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video, and in today's video I will be discussing Joe Douglas's press conference with the media and him talking about the 2024 NFL draft. He got into a little bit of plans and strategy. Now, he's not going to come out and say, we're taking this guy, because that's just not how things work. But we'll go through the main talking points and get into each and everything that was discussed at the press conference and see if maybe there's a little bit of breadcrumbs on the direction the Jets are going to go. So first, Joe Douglas says that there's 10 guys that they like at pick number 10.
Yeah, a lot of great conversations, a lot of great meetings with our college scouts were here last week, and our coaches got together, and we just we went through everybody. You know, we had a lot of good discussions and talked through some interesting scenarios and a lot of great players. And you know, this week has been just some more strategy meetings with people, and so again, I think we're in a good spot. Excited about next week, and we definitely have 10 players that we're excited to take, so we're ready to roll.
That could be a very real possibility, as there's a lot of talent at the top of this draft, and Joe Douglas would later go on to say that there is a ton of offensive firepower at the top of the draft and just offensive talent in general at the top of the draft. But in particular with the New York Jets, they have options, and that's kind of my main takeaway from Joe Douglas's press conference was he seems excited about the options that are on the table for the New York Jets, including the idea of trading up or trading back.
No, those are the questions we're asking ourselves. Okay, who are those guys? Would you trade up? Who are those guys? How comfortable are you moving up to get those players? So those are all the discussions that we're having right now. We're going to have more strategy meetings next week on, okay, who are those players that we would consider coming up from 10 to go get? How many of them are they? How far are you willing to go? Obviously, we don't have our full complement. We don't have a second-round pick this year, so that limits you a little bit on how far you can go up. But those are the conversations we're having. And then on the flip side, we get to 10, and we have a strong group of players that we love. How willing are you to move back? How far do you feel comfortable moving back? So those are all the conversations that we're having yesterday and all next week.
Now let's start on the trade up side of things. That's been kicked around a little bit with the Jets trading up, and I think I know this is a very cliche answer, but it's going to depend on how the board breaks. If Marvin Harrison makes it to pick number 5, do you think the Jets call and check in on the Chargers? I think they make the call. Are they going to be aggressive enough to pull it off? I think that'd be a little bit on the surprising side for me. I'd be thrilled and excited about Marvin Harrison on this New York Jets football team, but I would be a little bit surprised if that's the move that they were going to make. He also mentioned trading back and moving down a few spots, and something key that he talked about is that they don't want to move too far, or that he implied that they wouldn't want to move too far, essentially saying, like, you got to see like how far back you're comfortable with, and that's the key for this Jets team. I don't think they should move back crazy far. 5 to 6 picks at most. Cincinnati at 18, I'm sure they'll be interested in moving up for a Brock Bowers, but do you want to move back that far and risk losing out on some really awesome players in this draft? I don't know. That's the risk that you run. It's going to be interesting to see if that's something they do. If they move back, how far back do they go? Like, are they trading back to 31 with San Francisco? That'd be rather shocking. If they moved back a few spots in the draft, probably a little bit more realistic. Or, I mean, they could just, if someone they like is there at 10, just run in the pick. Joe Douglas was asked about taking a quarterback on day 2 or 3 in the NFL draft, and he said something to the effect of, I would love to be a quarterback factory and draft a quarterback every year. Now, for this New York Jets team, I think most people could agree that they should not take a quarterback in the first round, because they are in a go-for-it window, and they still have some holes on both the offensive line and the weapon category. So I think pretty much just anything on the offensive side of the ball that's not a quarterback or running back in the first round, then most people would be pretty happy. But on day 2 or day 3, different story. Now, if they take someone and have them sit behind Tyrod Taylor and behind Aaron Rodgers, that's a pretty good plan. And it's not a guarantee that the guy turns out to be a starting quarterback in the long term. But you never know. There are examples of quarterbacks on day 2 and day 3 who become starters and good players in this league. Or maybe they just become, a solid backup quarterback for a few years. That's what they tried to do with James Morgan. It did not work out because he was abysmal. But if you hit and, that guy could be a backup quarterback for you for a few years and maybe help usher in that next quarterback that you find in 2026, not a bad plan. Not necessarily draft related, but something that I still wanted to bring up because he was asked about it. And the deadline for this is like 2 weeks away. So they haven't decided on if they're going to pick up Elijah Vera Tucker's 5th-year option or not. They have until the first week of May to do that. I get why it's complicated. Elijah Vera Tucker, the last 2 seasons, has had season-ending injuries and has not completed a full season since his rookie year in 2021. I think I would be willing to take that risk, and it's a little bit different from past examples. Unfortunately, Mekhi Becton had 2 very similar injuries to the knee, which is not ideal, unfortunately. So that I could understand why they would pass on it, but with Elijah Vera Tucker, one's a tricep, one's an Achilles, both kind of freak plays and freak injuries. I think I would take that gamble, but I understand why the Jets are being very cautious with this one and taking their time. And who knows, maybe behind the scenes they actually know what they're going to do, but they don't want to just come out and say it because they have time. All right, listen up, Bauer boys. This one's going to get you excited. Joe Douglas was asked about the possibility of taking Brock Bowers, and he referred to him as a Swiss Army knife and spoke about how much stress a top-level tight end could put on the defense. Brock Bowers is just that, a weapon. And I know that there's a section of the fan base that goes, I don't want to take a tight end, and they'll cite past examples in the first round in the league that maybe haven't worked out the same way. Or I've seen people cite like Jets tight ends that they have taken 10 plus years ago in like Anthony Becht and Dustin Keller and, Kyle Brady and Johnny Mitchell in the first rounds. And I don't think that's fair because they're different levels of prospects, each one. And Dustin Keller was pretty solid for the Jets for a few years. Was he an elite player? No, but he was one of the Jets' better pass catchers on 2 teams that went to AFC championship games. So he did play an important role, and unfortunately injuries kind of ended his career in what was that, 2012 in Miami? Really unfortunate stuff, but moral of the story, it sounds like Brock Bowers is a realistic option for the Jets. While I've made it pretty clear that my preference would be offensive line, if they do go weapon, I'm okay with it. And I would be okay if the Jets drafted Brock Bowers because I realize he's not just a prototypical inline tight end. You line him up in the slot that moves guys down the pecking order like Alan Lazard. You could have both him and Tyler Conklin on the field at the same time. That doesn't necessarily stop you from using Tyler Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert. And I think he's a versatile piece and would be a really fun addition to this team. Last thing, he was asked about Zach Wilson. He called him an asset, but said they're open to trading him. Didn't really get into details if he would be on the team in July, like when training camp comes around, and if you'd have to report and all that stuff. Another one that I've made pretty clear. I think it's better to just for both sides to move on. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out here with the New York Jets. Maybe on day 3 of the draft, it's like Zach Wilson and pick 256 for a pick that's like 10 picks higher or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to end up being in a Zach Wilson trade. I know Woody Johnson came out and said that they won't just flat out cut him, but if it came to it, I think I'd rather cut him than have him come back into the building in July. That just is a very weird and awkward situation for not only the player and Zach Wilson, but the rest of the team, man. I think, again, it would just be like cut your ties with it. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out. I really wanted Zach Wilson to hit and work out. I was excited for him when he was drafted, and I wish him well, but unfortunately, it's just I don't think there's a future here for him or, frankly, in the league. He was really, really bad his first 3 years in the league, and I think the fact that no one's really kicked the tires on him is telling. When Trey Lance gets traded, you have Mac Jones get traded, and you had Justin Fields get traded, and Zach Wilson, I don't know, not a whole lot of interest. Sam Darnold keeps getting jobs, which is surprising. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Sam Darnold could be a fine backup in this league, and he has been. He might even get a chance to start in Minnesota if they want to take on their rookie quarterback slowly. But For Zach, I don't know. There hasn't really been much interest there. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on Joe Douglas's presser down below in the comments. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new. I'll catch you guys next time.